Hey everyone, so today I want to talk about what you do as a tenant if you're running into issues when you're dealing with your landlord. And this story kind of came up when I had a client reach out to me, some friends of ours, and they reached out and they were like, "Hey Brandon, there is a loud pipe in our bedroom and it is making so much noise, so bad that you cannot sleep." And they've been sleeping in the living room, and I felt so bad, right? Because here's the thing, they've got two kids. They're in a 2 bedroom. They moved their bed. Imagine this. They moved their bed to the living room just because of how much noise the pipe makes at night, especially and during the day for, when they work at home and whatnot. So they had reached out to the apartment complex. Apartment complex was like, we don't, we'll send out a technician and whatnot. They sent out a technician like a week later. So they've been dealing with this for a month now. And they finally reached out to me over the weekend and were like, "Hey, how do we deal with this, Brandon? Like, how is there anything you could do? Can you help us?" And I'll be honest with you guys, I didn't know if there was anything I could do to really help them other than, reach out to the management company myself and try to use hey, like I'm a real estate agent, like I can, I want you guys to take care of this because we could recommend you guys for other rentals, blah blah blah. But I didn't know what I could do, so. The pipe was making so much noise. They couldn't work from home. Couldn't sleep in the bedroom. They sent out a technician. Finally, after like 2 weeks later, technician goes back, marks it in the system, is like, "Hey, this has been taken care of." And they log in. They're like, "Wait a minute, this wasn't solved. This issue did not stop." So they reached out again to the management office. They started another ticket, right? And essentially, this was like the dog and pony show, right? They're just saying like he said, she said, like they'll fix it, they haven't fixed it, and whatnot. And it was really frustrating. And it's really tough, when you're in that position because you're renting a place, and it's not yours, and you don't know what's going on, how to fix it. Not to mention, it's causing a lot of issues for you and your family, right? Because I couldn't imagine living in the living room with my wife and 2 kids, and it would just be really tough. So what I did was I reached out to a friend of mine, and I just want to preface this and say this is not legal advice. This video is not meant to legal advice. This is more like me explaining you guys through a scenario that I worked through and I was able to help my clients on. And you could maybe learn something from it as landlords, or two, you could learn something from it as tenants in order to help you get through something like this. So I reached out to a friend of mine, and they've been a great resource for me in my business. And I was like, "Dude, like this is what's going on, blah, blah, blah." And again, this is not legal advice, but I consulted with him, and I was like, "Listen up, what can they do?" So there's something called tenant assertion, and this is in the state of Virginia, and I'm sure every state has something like this. Virginia is a landlord-friendly state, but there are still laws in each state to protect the tenant as well as the landlord, because the state doesn't want these issues to come up, right? So there's something called a tenant assertion. And I'm sure depending on what state or county you live in, you can look up and say tenant and assertion in, I don't know, Albemarle County, wherever, right? Or XYZ County in Alabama, XYZ County in New York. But there's something called a tenant assertion. What a tenant assertion is, and I just learned this, guy, so it's pretty cool. So a tenant assertion simply states that if in the event that you are not able to enjoy your premise and there are issues that the landlord is not taking care of, you could essentially file a tenant assertion with the county, with the court. Once you do that, then what will happen is they'll open up a case, and they will essentially, the tenant will pay the county or the court the rent. So they're not supposed to legally, they're not allowed to, and again, not legal advice, but they're not allowed to really penalize you for not paying rent to them, because you're still paying rent, you're still paying the full amount's rent, you're just paying it to the court and not them. The court will then, go through their process and whatnot, and figure this out. Now, thank God we didn't really have to go down that route, but this is what we do. And I'm doing something new here where I use the remarkable a lot to teach things. So we're teaching today on tenant assertion. Right? So the thing here is, you're an unhappy tenant, right? This is you. What do you do, right? Because loud pipe. There's a pipe going through your apartment. It's loud. I don't know. Let's bang. Essentially, it's super loud, right? So it's causing you a lot of headaches and whatnot. So what do? It's also causing your work to really not get done because you're not working now, right? You're not working from home. You're kind of stressed out. So what you do is you go to the court. Here's a courthouse, and you file a tenant assertion. And what happens is then your money, your dollars, gets paid to the court. So the court is keeping track of this, right? Now here's your apartment complex, right? You're in your house, right? Your tenant, your landlord, sorry, who's over here, happy landlord, give him some hair, whatever, is not, you're not paying this. This is not going to happen anymore. So you're not paying that money to them. You're paying it over here to the courts, right? Call that court. So what that does though is this guy then the court goes like, hey, we're going to contact you because now you're not taking care of your tenant, right? And they're not happy. They're legally allowed. You as a tenant have the right to legally enjoy your premise. And this is something that if it's inhabiting you and this is causing really stress and just unrest, they have to legally fix that. They have to create a good environment for you to live in because your lease says that you have the right to enjoy the premise, enjoy the property as long as it's legal, right? Now you're just trying to sleep. So one of the things that I was told was, hey, you can get a test. Like if this thing kept going down the rabbit hole or whatever, we could have gotten a test, like basically a noise, a decibel meter to figure out how loud it is, and then we could have used that in court and whatnot. But what we did was I told my guys, not my tenant, I was like, hey, let's draft a letter, right? Let's draft a letter that says basically, listen up. I'm going to, basically you explain your hardship. So this is what we did. I basically told them, like when I found out this information, I said, hey, let's draft a letter and submit it to them and see if they'll get it solved. That way we provide a notice. And I always recommend to people, document every single thing. Anything that you do with your landlord or as tenants, just document that process because that if you ever have to go to court, then you can show that as really just proof. So we wrote a letter that basically stated, hey, management company / landlord, this is a property management company that manages a large apartment complex. But we said, hey, landlord, my name is blah, blah, blah. I've been living here for XYZ. We've been going through some issues here. And I really, really harped on explaining the hardship that this loud pipe is causing, right? This is causing a loud issue. So it's, first of all, my kids have caused issues with my kids' sleep. This has caused issues in my family life. This has caused issues in my work life. I cannot no longer work from home. Therefore, I cannot enjoy the premise as I'm legally allowed to. And I told him to outline all this in this letter, and I helped him draft it and whatnot. Actually, we used ChatGPT, and I described the situation. Chat did an amazing job. And then basically at the bottom, I said, if this is not taken care of, we are going to the court, and we are going to file a tenant assertion. So you're basically giving them an official letter, one, and two, you're telling them what you're going to do before you do it, so you're giving them proper notice. And what happened was, within that weekend, they sent out another guy to fix the pipe. And now the pipe is magically fixed. It turned out it was a fan that was making loud noises, and the pipe magically got fixed. And I asked them, I said, hey guys, do you guys think our letter worked? And they're like, absolutely, our letter did work. And I just want to share this with you guys, but as tenants, you have rights. You have tenant assertion rights. And basically, it's a tenant assertion. You file it with the courthouse. I'm not exactly sure of how other counties do it or whatnot, but you have rights as tenants. And if it's something that's unbearable and causing you heartaches, then you can write a letter like this to your landlord and use the legal system that's a tenant assertion to say, hey, this is what I'm going to do, right? Because they don't want to go to court. The landlord does not want to go to court. The management company doesn't want to go to court. This is going to cost them a lot of legal fees, and also it's going to get their name out there in bad press. Really, was what's going to happen. So that's my recommendation to you guys. I don't recommend doing this if it's like, hey, my bathroom caulking is off or something. This is more like if it's really disrupting your enjoyment of the property, this is what you have to do. So that's my take on tenant assertion and your rights as a tenant. I hope this was helpful, especially for those of you that may or may not be going through some issues. If you are, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to help out. All right, I'm Brandon LeCaren. I'll see you guys on the next one. Hit that subscribe button below, like, follow, comment, and I'll take care, guys. Bye-bye.